This is Power Forward.
All right, welcome back to Power Forward. Justin White alongside Mateen Cleaves. Mateen, what's going on, my man?
Oh, it's going. I am feeling good, flying high. Life is well right now, Justin.
Well, Mateen, you know that we love our entrepreneurs who truly have built their businesses from the ground up. And we've been fortunate enough to talk to a couple of entrepreneurs who have started their businesses as a hobby. Then it becomes a side hustle. And then eventually it's their full-time job. Wow. And we are pleased to be joined by one of those people today as we welcome in Amanda Adamcheck, who is the owner of Kilo & Co., which is an online women's apparel company based here in Metro Detroit. Amanda, thanks so much for joining us and welcome to Power Forward.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm loving your energy. I'm like, give me more of this. I love it. So happy to be here.
Going throughout. That's usually the goal for us, especially Mateen. You're going to see real quickly that he is the energy guy in this equation. So Amanda, let's just jump in right there. You do not have a background as an entrepreneur. You had a corporate job. Mm-hmm. So give our listeners just a sense of how you came to be a small business owner.
Yeah. So I climbed the corporate ladder for 10 years. I think it was a great experience. It gave me a lot of the baseline knowledge and just, overall work ethic that I needed, I think, to be an entrepreneur. So love my experience there. But one day I just was in so many weddings and I had so many bachelorette parties to plan and wedding things to do that I started doing Etsy type things as a hobby. I was like, instead of buying it on Etsy, I can make it myself. And so that's really where the entrepreneurship bug started as my hobby. And then it kind of grew into apparel and mugs. And I started doing more local things. I had season tickets to the Tigers at the time, and there wasn't much apparel out there for my style that I wanted. And so I started creating things that I had wanted out in the marketplace that I couldn't find. And that's kind of how it blossomed. It started with one t-shirt, went to a mug, and then it just kind of grew slowly. I did it as a side hustle, having a full-time job for probably a little over 2 years, and kind of did the whole work 40 way plus hours at the corporate job. And then, in the evenings and weekend worked on the side hustle. And I did it the smart way of, making sure that it was actually growing and I was, well enough off to leave the corporate job. And eventually came to that point, quit my job, and then I've been doing that ever since. So I think we're going on year 3 of full-time entrepreneurship, and then the company itself turns 5 this June.
Nice, good stuff. Now, was it? I know you were making money. I'm sure you were making money. Was it something else that said, "Hey, this is it"? I'm making money. Was it the freedom? I'm having fun doing this. Was it something else beside the money to say, hey, screw this. I want to make this thing a full-time job?
Yeah, I like to say that I was kind of forced out, if that sounds, it sounds bad, but like I said, I've had good jobs and I've had bad jobs, and I happened to just be in a bad job at the time, where it was, it's the culture of the company is everything. And I've been at companies with good culture and companies with bad culture. And I was just, I don't even think it was my decision. It was like, I had to do it. It made the jump. It was a really hard jump, but it made it that much easier because I don't feel like I had a choice. I wanted the time freedom. It wasn't even about money for me. I took a huge pay cut when I was at my top part of corporate, and I actually took a pay cut because I wanted to explore the side hustle. So it wasn't money for me that was driving the decision. It really was the time freedom and to be able to do, work from home, which everyone's been able to do this year. I like to say if 2020 happened, I might not have been an entrepreneur because I would have got everything I always wanted out of a job. But yeah, time freedom and to be able to do what I want when I want and creatively. I never thought I really wanted it from a creative standpoint, but it's such a huge creative outlet for me. I don't do well with processes and systems, and that's probably like the one area of my business I can improve. But that's what I hated about corporate is I hated everything fitting into a box and having to do it XYZ. I'm the person who wants to just, which isn't always a good thing. I just want to skip the 3 steps that I don't feel like I have to do and just get to the end. So it's a pro and con, but there was so much of that in my corporate life that it just didn't fit who I was kind of as a person, as a professional.
One thing you said that really piqued my curiosity, Amanda, was that this whole thing kind of started based on your style. Like you were going to Tigers games and you decided that you wanted to wear something that was more your style. Mm-hmm. How do you go though from that to then saying, I think that there are a lot of other people out there, a lot of other women out there who would also like my style? Because you can't just start a business based on, I like something. You would have to do like some testing to make sure that there's a market for your product, right?
Yeah. I think social media was a huge part of all of that. I think I did a lot of just like posting something. I would post like a mock-up of a mug and it wasn't for sale yet, but I would just see how much engagement and interaction it got. And I was like, oh, people like this. Let me just go make it a product now. So there was a lot of that in the early beginning of just throwing something up there or saying coming soon, even though it technically wasn't coming soon. It was more just like, am I getting any interaction or not? If so, I'm going to either kill that idea or run with it. There was definitely a lot of that going on in the beginning. And then I think in the beginning, I was so naive. I was just like, I like it. I created it. I'm just going to do it. I don't think there was as much overthinking as there is maybe now, which is much more marketing and analytics and things now than it kind of was back in the beginning.
That's probably good though, right? I mean, you're at that point, you don't know what you don't know, and you gotta have, a certain level of confidence to actually get this thing off the ground. Speaking of which, take us through that process, because a lot of the entrepreneurs we talk to say that, it's one thing to get the business up and running. It's another thing to actually start generating revenue and growing your business and getting clients to come to you. What was your experience like in that regard? From getting things up and running, and then actually getting it running to the point where you could sustain your business and actually start generating revenue.
Yeah, in the beginning, it just kind of was more organic. I started getting sales and was like, oh wow, I wasn't even expecting to make money. Like if I look back at my goals, it was like laughable because I far surpassed my like yearly goals for my first year because I just thought it was going to be a fun hobby. So I think I let it organically grow. So there was no pressure. I wasn't like, oh, I have to make this much money to pay bills. So it was just fun and it was something I was able to do. So I think taking that pressure off myself allowed it to grow a little bit more quickly than probably if I was like forced. And then I think, honestly, I got a lot of great opportunities. I can't hide that certain things would like help my business. So whether it was working on social media with an influencer that happened to shout my product out, like that's not necessarily great for long-term growth, but it really helps kick that up in the beginning. So things like that, opportunities that honestly, I really had no control over. I just got great support from the beginning, really, really helped start to drive revenue. The first 2 years were, just steady growth. And then I think those opportunities really help propel that.
Now, you mentioned the word support. At what point did you realize, okay, if I want to take this thing to the next level, I either need some advice from some other people or to build a team to help me get to that next level. So at what point did that kind of dawn on you?
Yeah, luckily my husband's an entrepreneur. So I had this support person that's been through it, who gets it. He does something completely different, but he already has that frame of mind, and it was somebody I could literally talk to day to day. I also surrounded myself with other women-owned business owners from the get. So immediately found Metro Detroit's, we're obviously we have a decent population here, but it's still small, right? Like you can still meet so many people and form so many relationships quickly here. And so I did that immediately, just got to know people, just to have that support and bounce ideas off of. So that was really crucial. And then I've always invested in mentors, whether it's, most people weren't even in my space. It was just people who were very successful and I'm going to learn something from them. So I've invested in masterminds and one-on-one mentorships and other things to really help my business grow. And I was team family as my staff for the first couple years. And then I was like the solo entrepreneur. And then I brought on Megan, who's my manager of all things. And we just recently brought on another person this Monday, actually. So we're a mighty little team of 4. And I can't wait to add to that as well, because that's been such a fun part is to, I want to obviously provide what I didn't get out of my corporate life. So
you talked about social media earlier, and you've got a huge presence on social. I mean, go look up Kilo and Co. It's KILOH, by the way, Kilo and Co. You've got almost 16,000 followers currently on Instagram. You're posting all the time. I mean, and some of the stuff on there is you. It's you like showing other people what your products look like. The sweatshirt that you're wearing right now, for example. Take us through your strategy with that, as far as how much you have to post, what you have to do to kind of grow, who you're looking to reach. Kind of give us a sense of how you've managed to build this large following on social and what that has meant to your business.
Yeah, it's been everything, honestly, in this day and age. I would not be where I'm at without social media. I came in luckily at a time, so we're coming up on 5 years. So social actually was a little bit different 5 years ago. I mean, it moved so fast. So I grew up in a time where it was very slow growth, which was fine, but Instagram wasn't as saturated. It was just a different ball game. There was no TikTok. There was no Reels, all these fancy things. I literally feel like a completely old person sometimes with all this stuff.
Same.
I'm like, I need to hire an intern just to do TikTok because we don't have a presence there. And I don't want to learn it. So it's been really integral. And I think in the recent years, what's really helped is building that community. So people get to know us. They come into the store. We have monthly pop-ups instead of being like a normal store. We try to really focus on e-commerce, but we have monthly pop-ups, and people are so funny when they come in, they like comment like, "Oh my God, it's you guys in real life." And we're just like, what? Like, it's just funny, like it doesn't even make sense to me, but they love that. They love getting to see us try on the clothes. They get to know what sizes we are, how things fit, because with e-commerce, it's so hard to buy online. You don't know what sizes are going to work. So that's just been really helpful from a community standpoint. Social media has really, really helped that. We are really big on email, but social is probably our number one, and that's how we get new customers. So if somebody shouts us out that has a following in the area, we're going to get those audience members to come over to our account right away, and we're able to start to like build that relationship with them from the get versus having, a brick and mortar where we have to wait for them to walk by. So it's been very integral.
Oh, nice. And I'm going to play devil's advocate here, because I know when I first got on social media, it was great. Oh, yes, they love me. It was all good stuff until you have some people that just say crazy things about you.
Yeah.
Some people that just they're just negative people. They're mad at the world, and they want to take a time to try to knock your business. First question, have you had that? And second of all, if you had, how did you deal with it?
Yeah, I have not had anything, knock on wood, really bad.
Good.
But there's always going to be people that are going to say just even like little things that get to you. And in the beginning, I think I'm a people pleaser. I want to make sure my customers are happy. So a lot of times I think I would go above and beyond, and it would really get to me and it would hurt me. And I'd think about that person's email or DM all the time, or their comment. Now I brush it off a little bit more, but I still want to turn that person into a happy customer, whether they were a customer or not. I think most of my cases, it's a customer who's unhappy versus somebody who isn't a customer. That really makes kind of comments of, maybe they just aren't happy with their purchase. It wasn't what they wanted it to be. And I just, I'm kind of like killing with kindness. That's kind of my approach with it all. Brushing it off. And nowadays in social media, I just realized that it's only one piece of the world. It's one piece of my customers. It's, not everybody are the haters. So I have to really focus on that. But if somebody is honestly saying something that maybe isn't like, maybe it's mean to me or I'm taking it negative, maybe it's not necessarily like super bad or like from a hater mentality, maybe it is something constructive that I need to think about. So I like to take that into consideration as well and not just write it off completely.
Well, I've got a story to tell, Mateen, about an experience that's going to show you what Amanda's company is all about and how they handle certain situations. So over the holidays, I actually ordered something for my wife. You know where I'm going with this, Amanda. I ordered something for my wife from Kilo & Co. Well in advance, probably like 4, 5, 6 weeks before Christmas. Getting closer to Christmas, a few weeks out, it still hadn't arrived. And I remember receiving an email from the company basically explaining that they were at the mercy of the USPS and that things were backed up. It's COVID, so on and so forth. even closer to Christmas, I want to say it was like a week before, maybe even, less than a week, another email explaining the situation and being very transparent about it, saying, look, there's a good chance you may not have received your gift before Christmas. If you don't, we're sorry. It's out of our control. Here's something you could do instead. Like it was, I think, an idea to print something out, right? To show them instead of the actual product, Amanda?
Yep.
So to me, that said everything I needed to know about her company, because rather than shy away from a situation that was, potentially bad for business, they confronted it. They were transparent with me. And I genuinely appreciated that, because a lot of companies, you deal with, you think about the different interactions you have with companies and businesses that you buy things from. They just don't handle it that way. So I just want to say kudos to you for handling it that way, number one, Amanda, but also number two, how important is that to you? Just to be transparent, especially in a situation like that where some people are probably going to be upset about it, even though it is out of your control.
Yeah, I always want to be proactive. So if I have two people come into my DMs or email asking a question, just like in any other part of life, there's 100 more people that have that exact same question that just didn't take the time to email or DM. So I'm the person who's not going to be confrontational, and I would never have emailed anybody. I would have just waited for my package to eventually show up, probably forgot about it, and that's that. So I wanted to make sure that I got ahead of it. And instead of getting, 5 more emails that day, I wanted to be able to stop the emails from incoming, because I think that people, like you did, react a bit better when they're being communicated to versus them having to be the one to reach out. So that was really helpful, especially during that time. It was one of the most frustrating times with the USPS delays this year due to COVID. So it is what it is. But at the ultimate day, they're going to be mad at me, not USPS. So I got to make sure that I protect my brand reputation and try to, make some customers a little bit happy and turn their, thoughts, their negative thoughts around a little bit.
I love that. It's funny because I when I speak to people, especially leaders, to me, I say it don't impress me for people that have success when everything goes their way. I mean, that, you don't get too many points from me for that. You gain points from me when you have adversity hit, like when issues like that happen and you're transparent and you're stepping up to the plate. We're not calling there, nobody's home, call back in 2 months, you addressed it. And I said, that's the difference between winners and losers. Like a winner is going to find a way, step up to the plate when it's an adverse situation, when it's not convenient. That's the key. It's a lot of people that, have success when everything is going their way. To me, anybody can do that. I think that says a lot about you as a person in your company to be able to step up in adverse situations. So like Justin said, I mean, that's kudos to you. And I think it's a credit to the way you do things and the way you run your company.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good learning experience for sure.
And by the way, the package did come, and my wife loved the sweatshirt. So at the end of the day, it's all good. You talked about finding mentors yourself. I'm wondering, have you now found yourself in the position where other entrepreneurs and people who are aspiring entrepreneurs, especially women, like you said, because that is a tight-knit community, are coming to you and asking you for your advice on how you've done it? And if so, what kinds of things do you share with them? Yeah.
So that actually happened a lot when I started to have success, which people saw right on the outside. They, that's what they see. So, I mean, not that I wasn't successful, but you know what I mean? Like they start to see momentum and they're like, wait, how are you doing it? That started when I started to grow. And so I loved helping people. I would just do like coffee talks with people and just go chat with them. And then I was like, okay, wait, I can help more people. I actually started a mentorship program for women-owned businesses that also own products. So not service-based, but just if they own, candle company or another apparel company or boutique or something, I started a mentorship for them. I had a baby earlier this year and then COVID hit. So I actually stopped doing that just due to time. I just didn't have enough time in the day. But that was so fun. I put together courses and helped mentor them, literally would answer any question. And that was so much fun to be able to give back that way. And then now if anybody slides into my DMs and asks any questions, I'll tell them where I get my product done. I'll give them suggestions on printers. I will let them know where to invest their time. I'm an open book. I mean, somebody doing even something similar to me, I'm like, cool, go ahead. Like there's so many people in the world. Everybody I mean, everybody will succeed, but everybody can have an opportunity to do that. And I'm not going to be the one that's going to say that they can't. So I might as well help them. I also, and people sometimes are clueless and you have to start somewhere, but I also realize you have to be very resourceful as an entrepreneur. Or to be successful in any, honestly, business or, position that you're in. And sometimes people come to me with the most simple questions that you can Google. Of course, I'm going to give them the answer, because if they can't even Google that question and they can't find the answer to the question they're asking me, they can have all my secrets, because odds are, like, if you're not going to have the gumption to go do that yourself, I don't want to say you're not going to make it far, but it's going to be a lot harder for you if you don't already have that innate determination or resourcefulness from the get.
Oh man, you're such a great person, Amanda, because I tell you what, I wouldn't be so resourceful, especially to people that was trying to do the same thing I was doing.
Yeah.
But that just says it's a testament.
Not the exact same thing, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Not candles and all that. Hey, I got you. Whatever I can do, I'll help you out. Now for you, like, as far as leading people, okay, because now you started your company and now you have a team. All right. How are you on delegation? Because delegation to me is a win-win. And I look at delegation as to take things off your plate. But the most important part of this is it empowers the person that you're delegating to. I mean, the fact that their leader trusts them, the figurehead, the company owner, trust them to do things. So where are you at with delegation? Because I know when people start their own business, they're hands-on. They want to do everything. Yep. So how do you feel? How are you with delegation?
Yeah, I was horrible in the beginning. Up until I would say March of 2020, and I'll tell you why. But I'm a Capricorn Enneagram 8. Not sure if you guys are Enneagram fans, but I'm a control freak. That's who I am. Obviously trying to work on that and have been working on that over the last few years. But I want to touch everything. And then I had a baby in March of 2020 and COVID hit. I had brought Megan on as seasonal help but a few months prior to that to basically have her take over while I was on quote unquote maternity leave. The minute that happened, I immediately relinquished control. I'm like, she stepped up to the plate. She eased every concern I've ever had. She's listening to me in the back, probably just like, she's like, keep going. But she really is. She is definitely a unicorn. People always ask me, how'd you get your Megan? I'm like, I don't know. She fell into my lap and she's the best thing that ever happened to me. In the last year, I've been able to step back and completely relinquish control to everything that she manages. And it's been such a blessing for me this year in particular. But I was horrible at it before, and I'll 100% admit that. I probably, if COVID didn't happen, I probably wouldn't have let go as easily. But it kind of forced me to, and it's been amazing. And, she has complete control over what she manages, and we work seamlessly together, hand in hand, and it's great. I'm all about empowering. You said that, empowering them to make decisions and all of that. And I actually think I learned this back when I worked at Target, back in my high school, college days. They always said if it's a $25, I think it's $20 or $25 decision at the cash register, if a customer's arguing, just give it to them. It's not worth the time to go back, get the price adjustment. It's basically, they empowered their cashiers to make that decision. And so I've kind of always kept that philosophy. Like, if it's not over, a $50 decision, I don't care. Make the decision. It's fine. And so that's kind of the philosophy that I've always used. And I always want people to take ownership. It's basically like, here's this room of crazy. That's what I told our employee that just started this Monday. She's doing more of the back end stuff, and it looks like chaos in our back office. Things everywhere. I was like, see all of this? This is yours. If you want to organize it a specific way, have at it. Just let us know if there's any questions you have, but this is your space now. And if I have problems, then I'll bring it up. I'd rather them find their own system at what works best for them, because they're the ones doing the job.
Nice.
I got a question for you. And I know you're obviously a sports fan, because, you were talking earlier about going to Tigers games. I mean, how competitive are you? Because, business by nature, it is competitive. I mean, and you do have competition out there. As you grow your business and start to see things go to the next level and the next level and the next level, what does that do for you as far as thinking about this as a competition?
Yeah. So I'm very competitive, but surprisingly, I'm not competitive when it comes to business. Within myself, I am. I know it's so cliche, and I'm not just saying this. So I'll be competitive with like our monthly revenue from last month or last year or however that looks like. Very competitive with that. I will, and it sounds so stupid to be like, I'll run a free shipping weekend just so I can hit that number. In theory, I'm like giving away free shipping money to make a number. Is so arbitrary, right? In theory, I shouldn't be thinking that way, but that's just how I am. So when it comes to that, I'm very competitive, and I'm a very competitive person overall. Don't get me into like board games, because I will do whatever I have to win. So things like that, but not with business. I will, if there's competitors, I don't even follow a lot of my competitors, honestly. And not because I don't support them and want them to do great things. It's just, I don't want to make sure I'm not being influenced by them, right? Like I want them to do their own thing, and I want me to try to stay in my lane. And so that I'm not influenced by, you're going to be influenced to an extent by trends and other things when you're in apparel, but I want to just stay in my lane and do that. So I've never been competitive from that standpoint. It's always been this internal competition with me. Nice.
And you mentioned earlier that your husband is an entrepreneur, and, so what is some of the best advice? Because we got some listeners out here that can benefit. They're actually definitely benefiting from listening to you, but what is some of the best advice that you may have gotten from your husband?
Oh, hopefully he won't listen to this.
See,
oh, come on.
Listen, I'm trying to throw him a bone. This is for him.
Yeah, actually one of the most recent pieces of advice that he gave me that would help anyone, whether you're in the beginning, middle, wherever part you're at in entrepreneurship, is just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. So I think in the beginning of an entrepreneurship or starting a business, people kind of like, I can do this. You kind of just want to like do everything. And you don't have to. And I think people just like see a bunch of shiny objects and they go for them. And I did that my whole, I started as an Etsy shop, and then I went to apparel, and then I did mentorship, and I kind of just went with all these shiny objects instead of just focusing on what I was really good at. And that takes time. It's kind of like the boyfriend or girlfriend, you kind of want to tell your friend to stop dating. You can't tell them that. They're going to have to figure that out on their own. No matter what you say, it won't matter. It's kind of like that. Sometimes I think in entrepreneurship, you can give all the advice you want, but sometimes they have to learn their own lessons as you go through. But that is one thing that he said to me recently, because we just opened up a cute little pop-up space around the holiday time, and it went so well. I got in my head about we should open a brick and mortar and be open normal hours, right? Because it's such a great opportunity. And he's like, Amanda, do you really want to be open 5 days a week? And I have a kid and I enjoy this flexibility. That's why I got into it. And I'm like, no, actually, I don't want to be open 5 days a week. And so we went with this monthly pop-up system instead of being open traditionally. So that was a decision that I completely pivoted based upon just that. So that's one piece that for sure he gave me recently that I can remember.
All right. Speaking of the word you just mentioned, pivot. As a small business owner, how important is it to be nimble, and be able to adapt, because things are changing so quickly in the world. I mean, like you said earlier, social media is unrecognizable from what it was 5 years ago. So in your opinion, what is the value in that of being nimble and being adaptable?
You have to be. I think it's, whether it's this year or it was 10 years ago, I feel like it was probably, I wasn't in there 10 years ago, but I imagine it's always been something you have to do. You're always going to be thrown curveballs. 2020 especially, we had to do a ton of pivots because we weren't able to work with manufacturers that, where it had to be shut down. So we have no product. What are we going to sell? You have to get very crafty very quickly. But I think the one thing I always told my mentees when I was mentoring was, if you've done something and you know how to be successful, you'll figure it out. It might not be exactly what you wanted, but if you've done it once, you can reinvent the wheel. You have the skills to do it again. You might be doing it a different way, but I always kind of use that as my, if I don't know if we can swear on this, so I'm trying to figure out different words. If something hits the fan, it's going to suck, but just always go back to, how to be successful. You know how to do it. You're resourceful. And it always just eases that anxiety you get when something does go wrong or something gets messed up. For example, I've had so many mess ups with colors of a sweatshirt coming back that I thought I ordered the wrong color. And now I'm stuck with these brown, ugly sweatshirts. True story, had to sell them. And so I created the campfire crew because I'm like, we live in Michigan. I'm just going to make this a campfire thing. It wasn't even supposed to be that. We ended up eventually selling them all. But I've also ordered mugs that were, we have like normal, like, well, I don't know if you can see them up there, but we have like normal 15-ounce mugs. Well, I accidentally ordered these mini mugs that were like 8 ounces. It's like it's like an espresso mug. I ordered 400 of these and had to figure out how to get rid of them. So there's so much of that where you just get it and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? A huge mess up, but you figure it out and you pivot and you figure out how to get it done. So
now where did that patience come from? Like, is that something, have you always been like a patient person, or was it experience that helped you with that?
Yeah, it's not patience. I'm the most impatient person. That's my husband. I really am. I'm very impatient. Impatient and competitive. You guys are like hitting on all the qualities. Yeah, no, it's not patience. I think it's just being a problem solver. That makes it happen. Now, that's also something my husband taught me, was being a problem solver. He's like, there's always a solution. You just have to find it. Now,
especially now, I like that problem solver. Now, is that something, especially for our new leaders or new owners or new entrepreneurs, going into it knowing that you're going to have to be a good problem solver?
Yeah, I think it's crucial for sure.
Another one of your mentors, by the way, somebody who many of our listeners will recognize, is Gary Vee. In our initial conversation, Amanda, you told me that Gary Vee was actually a big part of your motivation to leave your corporate career behind. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So I think if you know Gary Vee, he gets a lot of flack, I think, for his hustle mentality, but it was the message I needed at the moment. He has this one life message that he always has, a YouTube video about it. Obviously he has a million of those, but one that really, really spoke to me about just, you have one life. Like, what are you going to do with it? And I would listen to those over and over again. And honestly, he gave me the confidence that I needed to make decisions and really take that leap to full-time entrepreneurship. So I haven't listened to podcasts or things like that in so long. I think I've just been so busy. And, with starting a family, that I haven't read as many books or done any of that. But if I need a kick in the booty, I will turn him on, because I do feel like he's that motivation that I need to, he just has that philosophy that, gets me going.
And I've heard you, you just had a baby, boy, girl?
Boy.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I love it. Now, I listen to parents all the time. For me, having a son was a life changer. It was like, okay, instantly, it was a different type of motivation that I had when I had my son. It instantly was not about me. It was about them. Everything I did was predicated on trying to make more money so I could support them, whatever it was. When you had your son, did you have that moment when you had your son?
Oh, yeah. I feel like that's, when it's just yourself or you and a spouse, like it is, it's a little bit easier to say like, oh, we'll make it, we'll get by, all these things. But yeah, no, when you have a kid, it gets really real, especially with healthcare, being an entrepreneur. So yeah, I think that's a huge motivation, still is. But it's funny that you say that too. I'm very financially motivated. Like that's like, I'm competitive. I'm financially motivated. I want to provide. My husband is complete opposite. He could live on a dirt floor with a blanket and be the happiest person in the world. So we have this yin and yang, which also can like cause a little bit, cause some tension, but it's a great balance. I think even like my son's he just turned 1 yesterday, but as he grows up, he's going to kind of see both of our personalities when it does come to business or to whatever career he chooses. I think he's going to get a great balance of the two, because him being born was a huge motivation, to not only wanting to be more successful financially, but just to be able to have a little bit more freedom. Like I want to hire more people so that I can support them and their families, but also so that I can take, I think I have definitely taken a step back this year, but even more, right? And being able to be there for him as he grows up.
And let me say this, Justin, because I know you got a question, but And I want our listeners to understand there was a method behind that madness. And the reason why I asked that question is because I want you guys to find your why, whether it's money that motivates you, whether it's a child, whether it's you want to advance, whatever it is, we all have a why. We always have that, our why or that it. Just make sure you guys figure out what that is. All right, go ahead, Justin.
And nothing will give you perspective like having a child. So to your point, absolutely, Mateen. So here you are now. You're running this business, a successful business. When you reflect back on how you got to this point, making the decision to leave the corporate world behind and make that jump to full-time entrepreneurship. Or do you reflect? I mean, do you have time? I mean, you're so busy, obviously, with everything you have on your plate, but do you ever allow yourself to just take a moment and sit back and think about everything that you've accomplished to this point?
Yeah, I think a lot of people get caught up in it, honestly. And I think you do have to take time. And I think luckily Facebook and Instagram time hops or whatever those are, where they show you a picture from 5 years ago, really help with that because you get hit with some memory from 5-10 years ago and you think about it. I think it's hard in the day-to-day to really understand that wow, this is, my dream was to quit and be my own boss. And it's actually this shirt, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it says girl with a dream. It's kind of what it was all about. Now, if I wear this out, people always ask me, what's your dream? And I'm like, I don't know. I am living it. It happened. My dream was this. And then it's just now living it. So I think it is hard to remember that a lot, that I am living, and you do have to bring yourself back to that because of all those, what you guys talked about, all those hardships or those pivots that come along the way, that those roadblocks come and you have to be okay, this is a problem of something that I wanted. It's better than the problems I had before. So I always have to remind myself of that. And that's honestly what keeps me going. And actually, what you said about the why, that's part of my why is my whole business. So I always go back to that. I love that. I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan. I don't know if you guys have read or listened to any of his stuff, but I actually read Simon Sinek's books or watch his YouTubes again about finding your why. And I'll revisit that a lot. I actually had to revisit it this last year because I wanted to make sure that I was making the business decisions that aligned with that, right? Because you can get so scattered. So,
yeah. And let me ask you this, because I've been around two different style of people. I've had people that are goal oriented. I mean, they set goals for everything, big time goals. And then I had some people that are they go with the flow. And both are successful at what they're doing. Are you a goal-oriented person? Or do you set a lot of goals? Or are you one of those people that just kind of go with the flow?
I'm both. I'm probably not giving you any of the answers you want. But
there you are.
I do teeter on both. My husband's a really goal-oriented person. I'm not achievable marks and things like that they don't drive me. I could care less that I get to do X, Y, Z. But so that's why I'm a little bit more of a go with the flow person because I won't be motivated by that. I like to set goals to make sure that I'm obviously having growth. I have a minimum goal that from a revenue number standpoint that I have to hit. And then I have the based upon last year's numbers and our growth rate, this is what we should hit. But I never want to cap it at that. And me and Megan actually talk about this all the time, and she's the same philosophy. I don't ever want to cap it at here's our stretch goal, because that's just going to limit me. So if I put a ceiling on it, then I'm not going to get past it. So this winter, we had goals set. We honestly crushed them because we were kind of why would we stop or why would we just plan for that goal? Let's just keep going with the flow. Things are crazy. They're busy. This is great. Let's just keep going with it. And then from that perspective, we were able to crush the holiday because of that. Had we just set a goal, we probably wouldn't have ordered as much product or done certain things to be able to far surpass that.
No, and listen, I'm sorry, Justin. I want you to know, every answer you give is what I'm looking to hear. You are successful. I've already learned so many things from you, but I want you to give the raw answer because there are people that think you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. No, you have people of all walks of life doing so many different ways that are successful. So I think it's very educational for our listeners. So any answer you say is the answer that I want to hear. Trust me.
Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to the comment you made about your sweatshirt, girl with a dream. If there are other girls out there with a dream, the dream of owning their own business, the dream of becoming a successful entrepreneur, what message do you have for them?
Yeah, find your own lane, find your own way, do what works for you, not what works for others. I think in this day and age, it's really easy to look at others who are doing it and maybe in a similar lane as what you want to do. And so you look to them, you idolize them, which is fine, learn from them, but make it your own. I don't want to say it's the only way you're going to succeed, but that's how you're going to get further quicker. And that's how you're going to be more fulfilled, is if you're doing what truly aligns with you as a person. And I know it's like so cliche, but it is so true. And I do feel like that's why everyone I know that's been successful has that innate quality. Anyone I know who's struggling, just because I've done a lot of mentorship, that's what they're missing. And you can't teach that, right? You have to learn that. You have to, it's really hard to stop looking at everything else, especially on social media, and focus on you. And I think taking the time to do that will help you tremendously.
Now, great answer. What's your take on mental toughness? Because I think, being mentally strong, that's what I'm getting from you, that you are very mentally strong. And I think those are one of the traits that most success people have. What's your take on being mentally strong?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's everything. I have no idea what builds that. I'll probably know as I navigate parent life. I just feel like it was kind of like bred into me. I don't know. But I just feel like that's kind of how I've always been. So I've been able to take that skill. I'm not saying you can't acquire that. I think learning from a lot of different types of people helps with that. Confidence and really. I think being mentally tough. And then also like my husband, I learned a lot from him because he was in the Army. He's had a lot of near life death experiences, which change you, right? It changes your complete mindset. I've never had that. So I kind of learned through him a little bit of he's always just you could be on fire right now. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is always just there's always going to be something worse. And I never want that to negate my own problems, because everybody's problems, regardless if they're, worse or better or whatever than someone else's problems, it's all relative. But perspective is everything. And I think that helps me be a little bit more mentally tough, is I'm not afraid to fail and embarrass myself and all of that. I've gotten over that years ago. So I think that's really helped with mental toughness, is kind of just putting myself out there and not really, I care what people think, but not really caring if, what people think.
Yeah. To your point, Amanda, as far as entrepreneurship goes, that lack of fear of failure, when you think of the skill set it takes to do this, that seems like it's kind of required. Not every business is going to take off. You even told me, it basically took you 2 years to generate some real significant momentum. So it seems like you got to go into it with at least some lack of that fear to fail. You got to have that confidence, like you just talked about.
100%. Yeah. I think what helps with that, what I've told other people and what's really helped me is you can always have a fallback. When I was, if I take the leap and I fail, I can go work at Starbucks. They get health insurance. I can be a barista. I can go work back and work at retail and Target. That was literally my, I can get out of corporate. I can go do something in the meantime until I either figure the business out or find something else. I can always go back into corporate if I need to. There's always another, not the best solution, but there's always something. It's not life's going to be over tomorrow if my, business fails.
Yeah. No, it's good perspective for sure. And I know your business is growing like crazy. If you want to go into men's apparel, Mateen and I consider ourselves to be very fashion forward. So we would absolutely be down to be influencers if you're going to go that route. I'm just saying. Yeah.
I've tried men's apparel and people ask for it all the time and it failed. Those are my failures. So kids and men are very hard. So I think there's plenty of local male companies out there. There's a plenty out there for you, but I also do feel like there is a hole in the market. So just putting it out there. If either of you want to start your own.
Maybe Mateen, maybe a collab with Hilo and Co coming soon. You never know.
Yeah.
We tried and failed that. We won't do it again. Well, maybe, you never know. But
hey, but you would not have known had you not tried. So
yes,
so good
exactly.
for you, Amanda. It's been great getting to learn about you and your story and your company, and it seems like you're just coming into your own now. Growing your team and expanding. So kudos to you, and keep up the great work, and tell people out there if they do want to check out your swag, if they want to check out what you got as far as your products go, how they can do that.
Yeah, for sure. You can go to kiloandco.com. That's KILOHANDCO.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at Kilo and Co, spelled the exact same way.
Perfect. Amanda Adamcheck, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys. This was awesome.